All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jeremiah, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to take your radar detector from this with a massive wire running through your car and the detector obstructing your windshield to this. The detector is completely out of the way with no big bulky wires showing, essentially hardwiring your detector into your Model 3 or Model Y. I'm going to be going over everything you're going to need along with having those things linked below, along with going step by step. So even if you've never done anything like this before, you're going to be able to do it. Now, before we get into what you're going to need, I do want to give a quick disclaimer. I'm not responsible for your vehicle if you mess something up and your car blows up or something. I'm not responsible. But with the disclaimer out of the way, I am going to be doing the install on my 2022 Model 3 Performance. However, others have confirmed that the process and steps that I'm going to be showing are pretty much identical for Model 3s dating as far back as 2020, or essentially when the interior refresh happened. The process is also going to be identical for Model Ys, excluding the wiring. However, if you get to a certain point, and more specifically, your 12-volt switch wiring looks different than mine, stop. Do some research and figure it out. Please just don't start randomly crimping wires and just guessing around. Okay, so what do you need? First is a radar detector, duh. I personally recommend the Uniden line, so the R7 if you're looking to save some money, or the R8 if you want the top of the line that Uniden has to offer. However, I have also heard really good things about the Escort line and some other brands. Next up is going to be the mount, and we are going to be going with the Blend mount. This is where you're going to head on over to Blend Mount's website, put in your car along with your detector, and it will tell you what mount you'll need. The mount you get will depend on your radar. Some attach directly to the detector. Some you need to take a piece off the mount that originally came with the detector and attach it to the Blend mount. The mount is not the hard part. It comes with step-by-step instructions and an install video. Next is the hardwire. The hardwire you need will appear under the mount you need when you put all your information into Blend mount. Make sure you're getting the hardwire and not the mirror tap, even though technically when you get the hardwire in, it will say mirror tap at the top, but when you're actually on the website, there might be two different wire options. One will say mirror tap, but the other will say hardwire. You want the hardwire. It's the perfect length that comes with the plug for your specific detector, fuse built in, a crimp, a ground, everything you're gonna need. Now, in order to hide the wire and make it look all pretty, we're gonna need to remove some interior trim pieces. So a plastic pry tool set is going to come in handy. Next is a multimeter, so you can make sure that you're on the correct wire before you crimp it. Then a M6 1x16 millimeter screw. We're going to screw this into the car for our ground. And finally, some sandpaper and electrical tape, which I'll talk about when we get to that part. So let's hop on out to the car and get to installing. Okay, so now that we're out in the garage, the first thing you're gonna wanna do is unplug your car. It does some weird things with the readings on the 12-volt switch, so just make sure it's unplugged. From there, we can start the install. You're gonna wanna go ahead and start kind of getting everything disassembled. So essentially how it's gonna work is that right here, this is where the wire for the detector is gonna come out, and of course the detector is gonna be attached here. The wire is gonna come out here. It's gonna loop down and around to the detector kind of in this area. So the wire is gonna run from here through the camera housing, up into the headliner, all the way across until you reach this pillar right here. Now, some people will take the wire and they'll run it straight down here and then all the way down and through here, and then right here, your kick panel is where your 12-volt switch will be. You actually don't want to do that because there's an airbag in this pillar. It's actually like right here. So instead you want to run it through here and then all the way down to the back part back there, and then run it out and down the sides, just so you don't interfere with the airbag in case of an incident or something. You don't want a wire in front of your airbag. So I would recommend starting down here first, just so you can actually get into the kick panel, find your 12-volt switch, and make sure that you actually have it. So now in order to get this part through here off much easier, go ahead, open your glove box. Once your glove box has been opened, grab one of the pry tools, and you're actually going to get up into this little piece right here, just like a foam piece. Get your pry tool, you're gonna pull it up, get your pry tool up in there, and it's just gonna pop right off. Super simple. If you've swapped your dashboard, then you'll already know how this works. And then from there, go ahead, and we're gonna be taking this piece right here off first, because this actually overlaps this piece, and there's a little kind of plug underneath of here that keeps this piece in place. So go ahead and kind of just start up at the top, get your pry behind there, your pry tool, just enough to get your fingers, and then it just literally slides right off. It's super easy. Before you start actually taking this piece down here up, go ahead and just grab your weather seal and just pull it up. I find it a little bit easier to get my thumbs in the wedge and then just start pulling up. And you actually want to pull this essentially completely out all the way up through your pillar, because we are going to be working on this pillar up top here, which you can't really see, but you can see down here the weather strip is loose. It's literally just pull it straight up. So now the kick panel, and here's the loose weather strip, like I just mentioned. The kick panel is super easy. You're just going to look back through here, and you're just going to take your fingers and just kind of dig them. Just start pulling, just like that. And just keep pulling. And right here is that little plug. Put it up in there and pop that out. I'm gonna set this down so I don't let the plug go loose. Pull the plug out, keep this in a little safe spot. I'm just gonna put mine right in there. And then from there, you can just continue to kind of just lift this up and out. I'm literally just pulling straight up. We're just gonna go ahead and sit this outside. Okay, so once you're in the kick panel, for the Model 3, you're gonna be able to, you'll see this big, thick red wire. This is not it, don't mess with that. You'll see this like white box kind of on top of this blue box, or like right above it. And there's gonna be a bundle of wires running straight down next to it. You can see them right here. If you follow that bundle of wires, it goes straight down, but if you look slightly to the left of it, there's gonna be this bundle. And this bundle kind of curves, okay? And this bundle actually goes down and kind of intertwines with that straight kind of group of wires. And it's all like electrical taped up down here. And it starts here and it curves up and it curves down into here. This bundle right here is what we're looking for. In fact, you can kind of see it in there. That red wire right in there. That is the wire that we're looking for. This one right here. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna trim this electrical tape off, and we're going to test this wire with our multimeter to make sure that it is a 12-volt switch. So I actually didn't need to trim it with a razor. I was able to just peel the tape off. So now this bundle you have much better access to. Now you'll notice in this bundle that there's kind of an actual red wire, and then there's a slightly, I don't know, I would consider this maybe pink. But it's gonna be this red wire. It's gonna be the redder wire, I guess you could say. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna trim a little bit of the insulation off of this and test it, and I'll show you all that in just a second. Okay, so I just took a razor blade and just ever so slightly trimmed it. You can see right there. So it's exposed now. And we are going to take the red side of our multimeter, put it on that little exposed part, and then the black side, the ground, we're actually gonna put it right here on this bolt as our ground to test it. So now I mentioned that if you have a Model 3 in the years, it should look just like the one here. But if you have a Model Y, I'm gonna put a post down below. It's a form
Yours is gonna look a little bit different. There's gonna be like 3 red wires in the bundle. No, I think 4 actually. One's like a big thick one, that's not it. One's a red one wrapped around a blue one, that's not it. And then there's a dark red and a light red. And it's either the dark red or the light red. I'm gonna link that post down below. But tons of people of Model Y owners that are trying to do this have went there and they've tried one of the 2 and it works. But yeah, that's about the only difference. Now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna grab our Hardwire tap. And there's actually a few different things that come in here. First up, of course, is the actual wire itself. And it is really nice because most of it is flat. Squeezing it into the headliner so we don't have to take the headliner part off is really nice. It also comes with zip ties, so you can zip tie it around the airbag so it's not going over the airbag. I'll show you that in just a second. And then the actual part, the wire that's gonna be exposed, is actually braided and it looks really fancy, or at least I wouldn't say fancy, but it just looks pleasing to look at compared to like just a standard like black wire. So what you're gonna wanna go ahead and grab now, the other thing inside of here is going to be a crimp, and you're going to take the crimp, preferably where you kind of shaved off some installation, and you're just going to crimp the wire in there, and then this is actually going to plug into your wire tap right here, the blue part. This blue part, the crimp is gonna plug into. I'll show you that close up in just a second.
Okay, so just take your crimp on the part, insulated part, insert it in, flip it over until it clicks. And you can also turn it just to make sure. Put some pressure on it with pliers. Yeah, it's fully in there. So now from there, go ahead, grab this piece that's connected to your actual wire tap, and you're just gonna plug it in. Now once it's plugged in, go ahead and grab the ground wire, this wire right here. This is actually gonna be screwing into your car over here, but instead, the same bolt that I showed that we use as a ground for our multimeter, go ahead and place this on, and then plug your radar detector in, okay? Plug it in, have it over here, or have the ground, and make sure it actually works before you close all this up, and then you realize you did something wrong and it maybe doesn't work.
This is the part where the M6-116 is gonna come into play. This little guy right here. And the sandpaper. So, now, from what I've seen, 2021s and up should have this. If you look down here, there will be 2 holes. One will not be threaded, one will be threaded, metric. And you essentially just take your ground, put it over the hole, and screw that M6 into it. Now, the sandpaper is in case you have paint. I have black paint, so there is no paint on it, but just to make sure you really don't have a problem with Tesla's paint being too thick, that is. But yeah, just go ahead, sandpaper around that hole, just to make sure you get a good ground. Now, if your car doesn't have it, you will need to drill a hole. It's not really that big of a deal. No one's ever gonna see this. But yeah. It wasn't much, but some did come off. So now we're gonna go ahead, I'm gonna grab the ground, put the screw in. And there it is. Now, from there, the next job is going to be running this up and all the way around.
Now, our next step is going to be taking off this piece of headliner right here. The best way to do it is to just kind of grab here, and you can already see the airbag. You're gonna wanna just kind of grab and push. There we go. Sorry if that was a little blurry. Yeah, you just grab this part right here. You can touch the airbag, just, don't like punch it or something.
You can see we pulled this out. It's being held on by these little tabs right here. And we need to get this up and out of there. So you kind of just got to wiggle it. There we go. You're going to want to have the wire follow the pre-existing wire, and you're going to want to zip tie it to it, and you're going to run it down right in there, and then it'll loop down and it will come out right where the wires that are up in there next to the airbag that you're zip tying to come out. So you're literally just following this wire. This wire goes up and it goes in through there, up and around, and then it goes up into the headliner. So we're just going to be following that line. So once you've ran your wire up in to here and then following through there, I haven't zip tied it yet. It's then gonna run up here and then around and then to your camera housing. Now you're gonna be taking this off and this off. For that, you're gonna need it's kind of about as thin as like a credit card or something. And you're just gonna be getting in here, kind of like this. You're just gonna be prying that. And this is eventually gonna come loose. And same thing with this. Camera housing or rear view mirror housing is down. This part right here is gonna drive you crazy. This is the part where when you're prying stuff, you think you're gonna break it, but you're not. I ended up using 2 metal credit cards, and that's just because this right here is like really worn out and it just wasn't staying straight. Like I said, I'll have a better pry tool kit linked below. But this one, you kind of just gotta dig up in there, and then I was able to use this right here once it had a gap to like push it up and then pull down. This right here, I was able to just get with my fingers. You can literally just get up and just pry down. All right, so this right here is what it looks like. You'll first start by running the fatter piece through here, and you'll run it up and then down the part that plugs in. And then you'll be able to just pull this down and kind of slide the wire up, all the way until it gets right up there. And then you can just start tucking back behind here. Make sure you do give yourself enough slack right here, because the radar detector, as you can see here, when it's sitting here, the wire needs to be able to actually plug into it. So mine would kind of sit like this. Yeah, just make sure you give yourself enough slack. We've got it tucked. The tucking part was super easy, and it follows this wire. Got it zip tied there. I need to cut that off. It follows the wire all the way down, and then it zip ties again right there. That wire then drops, and it drops right here. So follows it all the way down, and then we'll start getting this cleaned up. But yeah, only really takes 2 zip ties, one up top and then one down low to make sure it drops where the pre-existing one drops. Okay, so once you've dropped it down and you have all your slack down here, we're just gonna go ahead and just start electrical taping everything. I mean, that's what Tesla does. They use so much electrical tape. So I'm gonna electrical tape this. I'm gonna electrical tape the crimp with it because I really don't want any of this stuff like kind of moving around and like causing a rattle while the car's driving. There's enough of those. Okay, so I have electrical taped pretty much everything up. Nothing's moving. There's not much slack in the cord here just because I tucked it underneath this. And now we can go ahead and just start reassembling everything. I already have the camera housing back together. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna first put this on. There's a bunch of different anchor points in there. So you are gonna have to kind of wiggle with it and make sure they all line up, because it's easy to line the first one up, a little bit more difficult to line the other, I think like 3 or 4 down there up. You kind of gotta push it back and snap it in and everything. This little plug, it's gonna go right in this hole. Put it back in. I'm gonna like twist it and kind of bend it in. And there we go. There's like little slits
and the carpet.
It's back on, and you can just start pushing your weather stripping back on. Away it goes. The part bottom slots in right there. So right here's the final piece. It just goes on exactly how it looks. And it just snaps in there. Here is the final install. So everything back together. And we will hop in here. As you can see, nothing through there. Can't see any wires. Up along the top. Now right in there, like if you were to wrap your head around and look at it from like the front, you can slightly see the wire. Because the wire is going in to the, this is like the camera housing, it does not fully sit flush. Okay, so now come up to the car, get in, radar detector's off. I'm gonna put my foot on the brake. And remember that if you have a pin, you need to actually put your pin in before the 12-volt switch will come on. So we're gonna go up here. We're gonna watch the radar detector. I'm gonna put the pin in. There it is, comes right on. And then you can just get out. And it does take a second. When you get out, we'll watch the detector. It takes roughly about, I would say, 15 to 20 seconds to power off, but I also have Sentry mode on because some of those wires, they'll turn off, but if Sentry mode is on, they won't turn off. But I have Sentry mode on there, you can see it just turned off. And Sentry mode is indeed on. So that is the 12-volt switch. It just takes 10 or 15 seconds for it to fully turn off. So yeah.
So now, some final things that you need to know. First, throughout the video, I was saying 12 volt. However, that is not technically true, or it depends. If you have a Tesla manufactured around the time they switched to model year 2022, then you more than likely have a 16 volt lithium-ion low-voltage battery. You can check this beforehand by going into your car's settings and additional vehicle information. This is also why the reading on my multimeter was 15.5-ish compared to the normal 13-ish reading you would find if you had a 12-volt lead-acid battery, and is also why it took 10 to 15 seconds for the detector to shut off when I left the seat. Secondly, I mentioned throughout this video that the Model Y is going to be slightly different. Essentially, the install process is the same, excluding the kick panel wiring. Like I said, I'm gonna have a post link below, so if you can't find your 12 volt or 16 volt switch, technically, read through it. Now, if you're gonna be testing a bunch of different wires, then I am going to recommend either a wire piercing probe or a clamp meter, though some clamp meters can only measure AC, so be mindful of that. These are just going to help so you don't have to shave off insulation from a bunch of different wires. But yeah, if you have any questions either about the process as a whole, or maybe you're in the process of wiring yours and you have specific questions, drop them below and I'll get back to you. If you are new around here and you want to see more Tesla related content like this video, then feel free to subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Don't forget to drop a like if you enjoyed the video or if you found it helpful, as it really helps out the channel. And I will see you all in the next one. Peace.